thanks for having me. It's always, a pleasure to tell the story. I love stories. My grandson, his favorite place on earth is Virginia City. He loves that place. And hopefully in this next election I'll actually carry a store account. So
You did that before?
I did.
You're kidding.
Not in the primary. I carried it big time in the general. But as you know, we just completed a session, and there were some bills there that would affect, Story County as well as the rest of the state. I think we did a pretty good job being in the minority of blunting a lot of the bills that were there, and we got a couple through that were good for us. But as you know, we're vastly in the minority, and we use Mason's rules in the committee chairs and at the assembly. And under Mason's rules, the chairman is king. So they can block any bill they want in the committee. They cannot bring it to a vote. They cannot even bring it up for discussion. So what we need to do if we want to get our Republican values through in this state, obviously, is take over the chairmanships. The easiest way for us to do that will not be in the assembly, I'm sorry to say, but it will be in the Senate. And we can and we need to work hard on getting Republicans elected to our Senate, because we can at least take one house, and then we'll have one set of chairmen who will actually put our bills through. At that point, we'd be able to go to the assembly and say, your bills aren't coming through here unless our bills get through there. And at least we would be able to do some negotiating and have a little position of power. Some of the bills that we put through, or that went through, there were some that I really didn't like. AB 123, for instance, is one that pops right to the top of my head. That was the NV Energy bill. I can understand them trying to reduce their carbon footprint and getting rid of their coal plants. I can't understand that. Obama has made coal so expensive, even clean coal, that your rates are probably going to go up if we stay on the coal, because of the cap and trade. What I didn't like about 123 was that it removed PUC authority for anything under 500 megawatts. So believe me, the new plants they build are going to be 490 megawatts. I mean, it just makes common sense to me. So the PUC authority on your rates, you're going to have a hard time keeping your rates down. Some estimates where rates will go up about 30% in the next 3 to 5 years. And that's ridiculous. So obviously I voted no against that. Fought it as much as we could, but the governor signed it. It went through. So it's the law of the land. And that was one that I did not like. Another one that we had, let's talk about the big one, SB 221. I know everybody up here is a Second Amendment proponent, as I am. I'm probably one of the biggest Second Amendment proponents in the Assembly. SB 221 was the bill that would require background checks for all transfers of guns. Whether you gave it away, whether you sold it, no matter what you did. I could not give, my grandson and I went shooting yesterday with a 22 long rifle, single shot lever, that my grandpa gave me and taught me to shoot with. Okay? I want to give him that gun when he's old enough to take care of it. But he was shooting it yesterday. I could not do that under the bill the way it was originally written without getting a background check on my 12-year-old grandson. Okay? Well, and paying the fees, which to me is a new tax, because that's all it is a tax. It's not a user fee. Okay? It's a tax. They just call it a fee. So obviously I fought that bill as hard as I could. Now the bill had a couple of things in it that were very, very good, and I thought should be made law. One of those things was that we have in this state right now, obviously, a reporting system. If you're adjudicated to be mentally ill, and you should know it, done, that is reported to the NICS and the DPS system. Well, this bill shortened that time to 5 days. 5 days after adjudication, it must be reported. Right now, there is no time limit. They do it in 30 days and 40 days, maybe a year. Yeah, whenever the bureaucrats get around to it. That was a really good part of this bill. Okay. Another part of this bill put a time limit on felony adjudication. Right now, again, they report it to the NICS system whenever they get around to it. So if I had a felony, and was charged with a felony and found guilty today, I go out tomorrow or the next day and buy a gun because it's not in the system yet. Well, this shortened that to 30 days. It must be reported within 30 days. Great parts of the bill. It really should have happened. But the Democrats would not split those out and vote on it. We got it in conference committee, and I was one of the people assigned to the conference committee. We split those out and put them into another bill because we knew 221 was going to die. We knew the governor was going to veto it. And they refused to vote on the other bill. They would not bring it to a vote, SB 236. Okay? And so that's political games. They don't care. And this is what I saw out there. They don't care what's good for the state. They care what's good for them, for their next election, for their contributions. Okay? We on the other side of the aisle, there's some people in there that do care about what's good for them, but most of the Republicans, what I saw, were really cared about what's good for the state and what's good for, what is constitutional for our state. So the biggest divide I saw up there, though, was not Republican and Democrat. It really wasn't. We were able to talk to the Democrats about anything except the really big things, where they saw press. But where the big divide was north and south. That is the biggest divide in this state, north and south. Las Vegas wants everything. They don't care about the rules. Okay? And I have no other way to put it. They don't care about the rules. Okay? They want our mining money, and they want more of it. And they want to be able to take money. As I'm sure you're all aware up here, mining pays not just a, what do they call it? It's not a gross receipts tax.
They a constitutional tax.
It's in the Constitution, they pay 5% of their gross proceeds after deduction, so I guess net proceeds. Okay. They pay 5% there, but they also pay property tax to the counties. Then they pay a special property tax on top of that that no other business in the world pays for the minerals extracted, and that's in our Constitution. So they're trying to remove mining from the Constitution, and they've already got a bill that will change. Sheriff, all right. Nice of you to show up.
I had to make a stop on the way.
Come on, guys, let's give it to the sheriff.
Hey, Sheriff.
You gotta use your siren.
That's right.
That's what we're
So mining pays more tax than any other industry in the state. Well, SDR 15 will remove mining from the Constitution. It is passed in the Assembly, in the legislature for the last 2 sessions, and now will go to the people for a vote. We all think it's going to pass because most of the votes are in Las Vegas, and there is no mining in Las Vegas. In the other counties like Elko, Esmeralda, White Pine, Story, mining pays a lot of the bills through their county tax. Well, that may just get removed because now SB 400 went through that says if mining is taken out of the Constitution, all of a sudden there's no more property tax for mining. No, now it's an excise tax. That means that the legislature can go back in the next session and change that tax because it's not a county tax anymore, it's a state tax. So that excise tax, they're going to jump that and they're saying 10% to a solid 10%. And my argument was we will lose mines in Nevada. If it's cheaper to do business somewhere else, they will go somewhere else. And they said, no, the minerals are here. They're not going anywhere else. We've lost 3 mines already just on the promise of this carbon thing. And one of the things, I don't know what it is about Democrats and math, honestly. But 4% of the minerals in the world are in Nevada, okay, of the precious metals. Well, I think that means 96% are outside of Nevada. Okay, I'm pretty sure you're 12. Can you figure that out? Just say yes. Whatever you say, Papa. But they're going to move. If it's cheaper to do business somewhere else, they're going to do business somewhere else. We probably won't lose any of the big mines that are here. Barrick, Newmont, some of the Gold Strikes, etc., Comstock. Probably won't lose any of those mines because they're already in operation. They will scale back if the price of gold goes down. And they will not start new exploration in Nevada. They'll take it somewhere else. It's just common sense, it's business sense. I mean, if anyone in here works in a business, you know, you go where it's the cheapest to do and where your profits are the best. So anyway, that's mine. Okay. So, the gun bill, we were on the gun bill, weren't we? Yes. Yeah, 221. We fought that very hard. I was told, that was one of the nastiest bills. That was absolutely nasty. There were threats made. There were threats. I carried every day in the assembly because I was told I needed to be shot.
What?
Oh,
He
yeah.
said that?
These
Somebody on
are
the
the
phone
people
said
trying to
that.
take your gun away that are
Yeah.
threatening to shoot.
Exactly, yeah. This is
You got
me.
it.
I was told I was a baby killer. That call came from New Jersey. Yeah. I probably shouldn't say this, but here was my answer to him. I said, this is Nevada, I had tags.
I had tags.
He ticked me off. My poor little secretary, this sweet little lady, she's on the phone, I walk into my office, and she's gray. Her eyes are this big. I said, Marilyn, what's the matter? So this guy says, you're a baby killer. I said, put him through. So I look at the number, it says New Jersey, and he says, I said, tell me what you just told my secretary. He goes, all you gun nuts out there in Nevada, you're just baby killers. That's all you want to do is kill babies. I said, hey, this is Nevada, I had tags.
Did he know what the tags were?
He hung up on me. They don't like to argue, they just like to hang up. I was also told I had two lobbyists come in. When they left my office, I looked them up on the computer to see just their background a little bit. And amazingly enough, their home address was City Hall in New York.
Oh,
Honest to God.
boy.
And I reported that to the LCB, their address got changed the next day. But these were paid New York city employees that Bloomberg sent out here. He had 6 lobbyists, these 2 were from New York. And they told me that if I kept pushing against this bill, because I was the one who was really doing the push against this bill, that they would do whatever it takes in the next election to see that I was defeated. And I said, you guys are obviously from New York, because do you know what District 39 is in Nevada?
Who you moving in?
Yeah. I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get a Democrat to run against me in Nevada, pro-gun control Democrat.
Yeah.
I said, then get your checkbook out, because you're gonna write about $500,000 worth of checks. I said, and that's money that's not gonna go somewhere else. And then you're gonna lose anyway. So please do it.
Yeah.
So please, we'd like to see you do it. So that was SB 221. We had a lot of fun on that one. Okay. Another bill that some of the people up here I'm sure are interested in is AB 264. That was one that I actually got through. That was Tom Grady's bill about the feeding of feral and stray horses, the Virginia range horses, where now it is now no longer a misdemeanor to feed horses.
It's
It's a gross misdemeanor, and you can spend up to 1 year in jail for it. So it used to be if you fed horses down near the road, somebody caught you, they'd write you a letter and say, no, you can't do that. The next time you fed horses against the road, they'd write you another letter that says, no, you can't do that. That was the punishment. Now, by God, it'll cost you $1,000 and maybe a year in jail. It's a gross misdemeanor. Okay? So what we're trying to do, obviously, is keep those horses away from the roads. Okay? Keep them back up in the range where they belong. But more importantly, for years, we've all heard the wild horse advocacy groups say that the state does not know how to manage the wild horses. Okay? And that they could do a better job. So in AB 264, I put an amendment in there that would allow the state to enter into management agreements with the wild horse advocacy groups. And it was passed unanimously. And the state has already entered into an agreement with, Wild Horse Protection League to start managing those horses up here under state law, under state rules. So the numbers will have to be managed. They're going to use birth control, herd management. If there is any roundups, of course, it will go straight for adoption, not for killer sales. So I think it was a very good bill. I was actually very proud of getting that bill through. Because I always thought, if you guys say, we can't do it, we don't know what we're doing, fine, you do it. And show us how. So,
Is that just feeding your roads or people feeding in their backyards that are not in your roads?
it's feeding in your backyards as well. It's
And the
feeding in
sheriff's department would enforce that?
Absolutely. It is state law.
It's a law.
It is state
So
law.
we can't
So
toss
if there was a
carrot
complaint.
out?
That's
no,
not
nobody's
feeding.
gonna-
He's not Obama. He
I mean,
actually
there's common sense involved too. One of the good things you have here is you have a sheriff that has common sense.
Okay, we know.
So there's common sense. Someone would have to actually follow.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what the procedure is if there's horses in the housing area, wild horses? What you would need to do or what procedure would need to follow?
Yeah, you would actually call the Department of Agriculture in Reno,
Uh-huh.
okay, and file a complaint. And they will now probably go to the advocacy group, the Wild Horse Protection League, to get those horses out of there.
What do you mean by housing area?
Well, like around
Here
the
in
Monty
Wayne-
Ranch and stuff.
Not
there were-
Virginia City Highlands.
Well,
Gunther lives here in.
I live here in Rainbow Bend.
Right.
And we have a problem with horses going in and eating our yards and
And they have
lawns and
lawns.
things like
They have
that.
regular.
We have
suburban.
regular, they step on
Right, and-
sprinklers and,
and part of this is because people do feed them down here. Another part of it is because you grow some great food for them.
no, absolutely, I
You know,
understand.
If I was a horse, I'd love to get on some of these people's
Just-
lawns.
The thing
Yes,
is,
sir.
Jim, if I could throw in on Gunther's question, it's still a fence out state, so you would still be required to fence the horses out if you didn't want them on your property. However, with this bill, this group that Jim is talking about that's contracted or in the agreement with the state, they're based in California, so they're actually kind of subcontracting it with the local advocacy group. So you'll see a lot more action or activity with groups like Bob Macario and Verpa, the local horse groups getting more involved in that.
And we really wanted the local horse groups involved because they know the area, they know the horses in the
So-
area, they know the herd.
would you consider Rainbow Bend a fenced out area? Because they.
There's no cattle guards, there's no
cattle
gates,
guards,
there's
because we have
nothing like that, so,
Places where they can come in.
right.
So then that would be fenced out. So then fenced out would be if I fenced my yard, then I would have a fenced out area. Thank you very much.
But I always hope that people know how relatively inexpensive it is to put up an electric fence. And you're not really harming your view of your property, and you're keeping out the deer
Well,
or the neighbor's dog from pooping on your lawn, as well as the wild horses.
Well, we have fence all the way around, but the way they get in is right through where the cars drive in.
Oh, yeah.
And they just walk in, and then once they're in, like he says,
They
there's
do
plenty of
this-
good food.
I
so-
saw this thing the other day on a house down there, they called it a gate. Thing opens up, you can drag
Let
your car
me-
through,
We
you close
can't, we
that
can't
sucker.
do that. in Rainbow Bend.
Did you spell that, Jim?
Yeah, G-A,
That's
the
against,
problem
that's
down
against the
here.
CCNRs
Is it?
in our, unfortunately, but.
is it against the CCNR, have horses on your property?
Yeah. Well, the thing is it's split. There's 50% of the people that really like the horses, and
Sure.
there's 50% that don't like the horses.
Yeah.
So there we have that, that bond.
And anybody who has problems with them can call and we'll come chase the horses away, and if it's a problem, then whoever's gonna be managing the herds can actually come and get them, relocate them further back onto the range or something.
Yeah, it will be relocation, they're not taking them out for adoption or anything.
There's 3 or 4 guys in jail in Clark County now who know how to rig homeowners association elections.
Yeah, homeowners associations, I found that interesting as a freshman legislator. I found homeowners associations very, very interesting in this session. I was on the Judiciary Committee, which handles homeowners association laws, and it also handles criminal law. Well, we spent probably 45 minutes on a law in one committee hearing. We spent about 45 minutes on a law about punishment for juveniles. And this was very important. When do we treat them as adults? Things like that. I mean, it was very important, and that's a long time in that committee to spend discussing it. Well, right after that, we spent 2.5 hours on what color you can paint your trash can in Las Vegas.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
No way.
And we had probably 3 people or 4 people talking about the juvenile laws, testifying before us. There were 77 people to come up to tell us what color you can paint your trash can in Las Vegas. That is no kidding.
What color did they find you get?
I don't know. I
Wow.
have no idea. So, but actually, it wasn't what color, it was where you could put it. That's, did you have to have a little retaining wall around it so it couldn't be seen from the street? And I say in Las Vegas, these are statewide laws. So we're listening to all the people in Las Vegas about whether they can fence off their trash can or put it in the garage. And I'm thinking, there's homeowners associations, believe it or not, in Gardnerville and in Minden. They don't care where you put your trash can, you know. But
Yeah.
now there's gonna be a state law
No.
that says we have
Enforce it
to,
in the
wall
rural
it
areas.
off. Yeah. So I mean, I just, talk about a waste of time in the state legislature, boy, this, yeah, it's incredible. One of the bills I'm gonna try to put through in the next session, if you guys see fit to reelect me, is that homeowners association bills will go back to the county
Yeah.
and not
Good place.
be,
Yeah.
No.
because every county is different.
Yeah.
And what works in Las Vegas doesn't work in Virginia City.
Absolutely.
Well, they had another bill about pedestrians, okay, and about where you could cross the street. It was called the Safe Streets Bill. It did not make it through, and I gotta just take credit for this one. It did not, they were talking about how you could not cross the street unless you were within 25 feet of a street light. Yeah, 25 feet of a street light. And it was really weird. Anyway,
Day or night?
they had it set up, and they showed us where the street lights were in Las Vegas on the streets there, and how far apart they were. And I sat there and listened and listened and listened, and I said, and this lady from Vegas said, "You ever been to Virginia City?" No. And I says, it is jam-packed with tourists, just like the Strip is on a smaller scale, and people walk across the street. I says, now, if we don't have a street light between the bucket of blood and the place across the street, they're not allowed. And, well, what's the bucket of blood?
What about the impossibility of enforcing that? It's
It was,
impossible.
that's what we were talking about. It was completely unenforceable. It never made it to a vote in the committee, so it never made it to the floor. So.
Carolyn's got a good new ad campaign. What works in Vegas should stay in Vegas.
There you go.
Yes.
Good boy.
The big one we're gonna try to put through, and this is a long shot, but Senator Settlemyre and I were so frustrated over some of the bills, the Las Vegas bills, that we are actually gonna try to start the paperwork to split this state.
All right.
Yay!
We will try to make Clark County
So
either
pretty
its own
soon-
state,
Oh my
or,
God.
better yet, a district.
District,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Because you can't, in our Constitution, you cannot split a state into another state. That's in the United States Constitution. But we could make it a district.
Yeah,
Yes.
Self-governable,
yeah.
yes.
Do you remember,
Especially
I think it was in the 70s when Vegas was actually, we discovered Vegas wasn't even within the state
Yeah.
borders?
Yeah, it was actually
I was on the
Arizona.
lawsuit, I said, I don't want those.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Well, I
We
talked to
lost.
Senator Tom McClintock from California, and I made him an offer. He can have Vegas, and we'll take the west side of Tahoe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 5 miles back from the west side of Tahoe.
Hell, yeah.
Yeah.
And those
They
big-
wouldn't take it. California wouldn't take Vegas.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. At least according to him.
That bill that's in Washoe, but still affects us because we do a lot of shopping there. Can you talk a bit about if you know what's happening with their county commissioners there?
AB 46.
And if they've decided to go for it or not, because I felt like that would be a death sentence for them
Right.
if they decided to act on that.
Well, 2 things happened in Washington. Okay,
Well, explain
one-
to the people what that is.
Yeah, one was not very well publicized, a lot of people don't know about. The other was AB 46. AB 46, what it said is that the county commissioners will be able to raise your property tax, was it 8%?
I don't
8
know.
point, something like that, for maintenance on the schools, okay, in Washoe County. Okay? And the money's supposed to go strictly for maintenance. And there's a lot of things wrong with this. One is, the state constitution says the legislature raises taxes, not the county commissioners. So, The bill originally was for the legislature to raise taxes, that's the way the bill was written. But everybody went, ooh, I'm not raising taxes, they just push it off on somebody else. Okay, so they pushed it off on the county commissioners, and it takes a supermajority of the county commissioners to approve this. What I've seen in the commissioners I've talked to, I don't think it's going to get approved.
Well, there was also sales tax involved.
There
That's
is,
what
yeah,
bothered me,
so,
as much as the property tax.
.075 on the sales tax or
No,
something like that.
.25.
.25, oh, okay.
Quarter of a percent.
Quarter of a percent of the sales tax. He lives in Washoe, he knows. So he shops in Washoe, yeah. But to me, we abdicated our responsibility. We never, ever should have brought that bill even to a vote. If you're gonna raise taxes, that is our job. They should have brought it to us and brought it to a vote and said who was gonna say yes and who was gonna say no. Yeah,
And remember this was, I think, intending to bypass state law on the tax cap for property.
it was, and it
Yeah.
does bypass state law.
Yes.
Such bad precedent.
I think it will be, if it does go through, I think you're gonna see some lawsuits on it.
Oh, sure, there's one already waiting to,
Right. Because I think it's unconstitutional.
oh, yeah.
Quick question, Ira and Pat Hickey and Randy Kerner have a big disagreement as to AB 46, as you know.
Yes.
But the big thing is, when they go out and speak in public, Hickey and Kerner said, if we didn't do this, it was gonna pass. So we were being the champions of the people and at least delaying it and pushing it. Where Ira says it didn't have the votes to pass, so I wanna know what you say.
Here's how you look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, it had all the Democrat votes to pass.
Right.
Okay, that is not 2/3,
Correct.
and it would have taken 2/3. It would take one Republican in the Assembly to go 2/3.
Right.
So if they're telling you it's gonna pass, that means they would have voted for it,
Right,
okay? So that tells you something right there, doesn't it?
yes.
Because one of them would have had to vote for it to make it pass.
They're blaming it on Lynn Stewart down. that
Well,
he
they'll
was gonna
blame it on,
vote.
you know, well, some Republican would have turned, is what they say.
Right.
Yeah, and they're right, and I don't know which one would have turned. But, well, Roberson's on the other side.
Yeah. But in other words, Ira didn't feel that it had the votes to pass or it would have
It
passed.
did not have the votes to pass if all the Republicans stood together.
Okay.
But they had another tax down in Clark County, what they call the more cops tax.
Right.
And they did the same thing, pushed it off to the county commissioners down there. I think this is going to be our new thing now, we'll just push everything off to the county
And
commissioners.
they
That way
turned
we
it down.
can, that way we can campaign and say we didn't raise taxes. Okay? You know, somebody else did, we didn't do it. But, so there was some trades, there would have been some trades going on. I won't, the people in the north, so I won't vote for your Las Vegas tax if you don't vote for our tax. So yeah, they probably would have had the votes,
Okay.
given that. I think Stewart and Hardy probably would have made the changeover. And so Hickey and Kerner probably wouldn't have had to vote for it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if they couldn't have gotten one vote from Las Vegas, one of them would have voted for it. Okay. That's my opinion, because I know that Hickey wanted that tax. And he said that the schools really needed it.
He's never been a tax he didn't like, did he?
You'd have to ask him that. But another bill that went through was the ward voting in Reno, and that could affect AB 46. Right now, it's countywide voting for every supervisor in Washoe County. And in 2012, there was a ballot question asking the people if they'd like to change that to ward voting only. So you would only vote for the commissioner that affects your ward. That's it, not for all the other commissioners in the county. Well, it was defeated at the ballot 76% to 24%. Defeated. Okay? So the legislature didn't like that because if you only vote in certain wards, they can pick up 2 Democrats in Washoe County.
Yeah.
Right? So, we passed a law that just overruled what the people said.
Yeah.
To hell with them. We know better than you do. And now there's going to be ward voting only in Washoe County. Okay? It passed strictly on party lines. Okay? I gave a floor speech against it, but regardless of that, they didn't care. They do not care what you think. Okay? They know better. Okay? So they can pick up. So in relation to AB 46, if they pick up 2 more Democrats over there,
It's over.
it passes, okay?
If it went straight party line, why did the governor sign it?
You'd have to ask him.
Yes.
I would not have signed it, let's put it that way. How do you overturn the will of people? It's just ridiculous.
Jim, does that apply to the county commission or to the city?
That was the county commission.
Oh, so, okay.
Yep. Washoe County bill, and Henderson.
And Henderson.
And they had Henderson for the same reason. Henderson is, the two supervisors from Henderson are both Republican. Okay. But if they go to ward, only one of those will end up being a Democrat because of the registration. Okay, do we have any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an overall impression of this is your first time in the assembly?
Yep.
How did you feel about it?
Oh, I had a ball. I had a ball. It's the most fun I can have with my clothes on. I mean, this is, I love it. I mean, I love it. John Ralston stopped me in the hallway after about the third week, you know, Mr. Liberal himself. And he goes, every time I see you, you're smiling. Why are you always smiling? I says, where else can I go in northern Nevada and argue with a liberal every day? I want another liberal. I said, there's another one. I said, you don't get that in northern. He goes, yeah, it is northern Nevada. But no, I love it.
How do you get through all your homework? I can't imagine all the reading you have to do.
It's amazing. The hours, you would not believe the hours. Yes. During the session, I would say my average day was 16 hours. Some days were 20. You know, when you see us walking around with huge bags in our eyes, believe me. We had a little bit of a problem in our caucus in communicating between one committee and the other. Because, like, I was on Judiciary, Natural Resources, which is very important up here in our area, and the Transportation Committee, because I grew up in the automotive business. So those were all good committees for me. And what would happen is we'd go into a caucus meeting before a floor vote, and if it was a Judiciary Committee bill, they would come to me or Ira or Wes Duncan or one of the guys on the Judiciary Committee, tell us about this bill. Because there's no way, we had 1,165 bills. Okay? No way we could read them all. So we look at the ones that go to committee, and the committee members talk to each other. If I'm not on the Education Committee, I don't know what's going on in education. So we have to get from them what's happening on this bill. So those meetings are extremely important. And we had a bit of a problem in our caucus with some of those meetings and some bills not being discussed and stuff. I also had an intern from Western Nevada College that I had reading bills, okay, all day. She was reading bills. And she'd bring me, what does this mean? What does this mean? By her coming to me saying, what does this mean? I saw what the problem was with the bill. And that's one I better read, right? Even if it wasn't in my committee. Okay? So there's ways around it. You know, there's ways to do it. But that's part of being a citizen legislator. If you go into California and you walk into an assemblyman's office, there's 10, 15 staff members in there. And they're reading the bills and they're doing everything for the assembly. Here we've got a secretary who answers the phones. She never looks at a bill. They're not even really allowed to look at bills. So it's done with volunteers, it's done with interns, and you do a lot of reading, a lot of reading.
Weren't you on the committee for the marijuana bill?
I was a Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, I thought I saw you.
Yep.
And what is the upshot of that now? Are we going to have dispensaries like California?
Yes.
No,
Yes, no?
yes, no.
Yes,
We will have dispensaries,
Not
but
like
California.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
California. They're actually going to be controlled much better here. They'll be a lot like Arizona.
But will you have to have a medical card of some kind to be able to buy the marijuana?
Yes, you'll have to have a medical marijuana card. And in our state, unlike California, the doctor won't be in the front office, where you can walk in and say, oh, my back hurts, well, here's a prescription. And you go back and get your joints.
Yeah.
But in our state, you'll actually have to go to a doctor.
Very cool.
We'll see.
Do you think that's the first step towards regular legalization?
I do.
Oh,
How did your office track who was doing what, your citizens wanted or did not want? Could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, there's actually a couple of ways we do that. One is what I like, going to meetings like this and seeing what you guys want and what you like, and listening to the people elected. I did a thing on Brianna's Law. Okay? And does everybody know what Brianna's Law was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brianna's Law, to me, was against the Fourth Amendment. Okay? Solid. The Supreme Court says I'm a liar, but I thought before the court ruling that Brianna's Law was against the Fourth Amendment. So but I knew that a lot of the constituents that elected me wanted me to vote yes on it. So I actually put an ad in the Douglas County newspaper in the Record Courier. I actually put an article in there asking people to write me, to email me, to call me. Let me know what you want. I really want to know. It was 3-1 in favor of
Douglas, you might, should have done your other county.
Well, it was in the Nevada appeal as well. Okay, so,
Carson.
yeah, well, also Lyon County, the Nevada appeal takes care of Lyon County as well. So, but it was 3-1 in favor of Brianna's Law.
But the upside of that, it might take a lot of time, like the DUI laws did, but eventually a court's gonna throw it out. And it only took them, what, 12 years to overturn the mandatory testing on DUI?
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it'll get thrown out, I'm sure. But, because again, to me, it's unconstitutional. But I was hired to do a job, what the people wanted me to do. So if it is clear to me, even if it's against my own wishes, what my constituents want, that's the way I'm gonna vote.
Even if it's unconstitutional?
That makes it just,
You got bailed out.
yeah, I did. I got bailed out, it was constitutional.
That's right.
Turned out being constitutional. But, when I ran my first campaign, and the one I lost, I said the same thing, that I will do what my constituents want, end of discussion. And Chuck Muth wrote a thing saying, well, I guess this guy, he didn't know me at all, and he said, I guess this guy, if the citizens of District 39 want to bring slavery back, he'll run for slavery. So I wrote him a letter back and I said, yeah, I would. But if that's what they want, I'd have to hold my nose, I'd have to bite my tongue, and they'd probably have to hold a gun to my head. But yeah, if that's what the citizens of if that's what the constituency wants, that elected me, that's what they elected me for. That's what a republic is about. Okay, you elected a person for your district, to do your wants and wishes, not the wants and wishes of a special interest, not his own wants and wishes, yours.
Yeah, a representative republic. Gee,
Exactly.
what a weird concept.
I may not agree with you, but if it's what you want, hey, you can live with the consequences, you know?
Well, we will live with it.
You will live with the consequences, and hopefully you'll come back to me and say, change this. So, but, hey, is there any other questions? Yes, sir.
Maybe one, people will say this may be my Pat question, but for this group, what would you give us as a challenge or a charge that we should maybe be looking at or, thinking about? And then most importantly, what can we do to help support you?
Well, Story County is, as you know, heavily Republican, is going to stay Republican. While I love the idea that you guys get the voters out for me in Story County, I mean, I love that. What you could really do is work with the Washoe County Central Committee, with some of your volunteers, and even some of your money. And let's go get and change a couple seats up there. Skip Daly in SD 31, or AD 31. That is a Republican district in Washoe County. It's a 3-point Republican district. And Skip Daly wins it because he puts out a flyer with a picture of him and Reagan on it. No kidding, saying how much alike they are. This is a union thug, okay? Honest to God, a union thug. And
Can I quote you on that?
yes, I told him that to his face. So,
Jeez.
that's one thing about your representative. I'm very blunt up there.
I kind of get that.
Yeah. And some of the other assembly people don't like me. Well, that's life. You don't pay me to like me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all that money that you pay me.
Yeah.
I get unliked with no salary.
That's right.
We have Jill Dickman, who's announced for 8031.
Jill Dickman has announced for 8031. And I gotta say, I was instrumental in getting her to announce for 8031.
Thank you.
But she will make a great, great assembly person. And we need to support her in the primary as well as in the general election, but especially in the general election. Because Daley has his union buddies go out and walk for it. Yeah. And they get paid.
They get paid.
Yeah.
They get paid to do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What part of the area, what Washoe is 8031?
You know, I'm not
Yeah, I
sure.
know where it is.
It's kind of Neil Road, that's one part.
No, it's way up north.
Oh, is it
Okay,
north?
it's right below Ira's district, okay? It goes up, almost up to the southern part of Wingfield Springs. It goes up Vista Boulevard out there, and then it cuts directly west, and it's underneath it are 8027 and 8024. Okay, so it's a,
Sparks.
it's Spark, mostly all Sparks, and then it goes over into Red Rock area and all that, so.
Really?
And they were smart. Daley voted no on the gun law because he knew in his district, if he voted for that gun law, his opponent would just nail him. But he did some things that we can still nail him on big time because he was named the chairman of Natural Resources. And I don't think the guy's ever seen any water outside of a water problem. But all of a sudden he's telling us how we're gonna put our water out in our grazing land and everything else. But there's some things that we could definitely nail him on in this next election that we can use. And Jill Dickman would be great. That's one we can definitely target and win. That is winnable. Bob Zien is one I would absolutely love to just get rid of him. But I don't think it's possible. I think he's in a 9-point Democratic district or something like that, or 8 points.
He made some major boo-boos though, in that, and we're working within his subgroups.
Good. Yeah, because he was so anti-rural. It was incredible the bills he put through that were anti-rural. Let's say we have a rodeo, okay? And we got 2,500 people. Well, now we have to have paramedics,
Oh,
a full-time ambulance.
no,
I forget, but it's ridiculous what you have to have. This was a Bob Zien. He did the Pershing County Burning Man law that just screwed the county. I mean, totally. Now the county can only charge exact costs that must be accounted for and audited to Burning Man. Okay? And Burning Man will tell them how many cops they gotta have. So if they only want to pay for 2 cops, they only pay for 2 cops.
Bob Sean basically kept our GMO bill in his desk or kept
Yes.
it, and that really takes off his.
Yeah, he stuck it in a drawer. He stuck that one in a drawer. I was a sponsor of that, but, a co-sponsor of it, which kind of ticked off some of my ranching friends.
Ooh,
Here.
Hey, it was the right thing to do, is what people want.
we just wanted them labeled.
Yeah, that's all it is. Anything else?
So basically, our power would, as we can leverage it, is by building that rural and that northern Nevada coalition and working to work northern Nevada against the southern Nevada constituents. that you
We have to get more Republicans elected. That's simple. And there's actually a good way to do it. And our leadership, as a central committee, as you work with the state leadership and central committee, this is another thing, another direction we need to head in, I think. Everybody keeps telling us that we have to move to the middle in order to win because the demographics are changing. I gave this little speech down in Las Vegas down there, and they kind of liked it. Well, the demographics have been changing in this country since the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria came over. Okay? All of a sudden, we weren't American Indian anymore. Okay? Every day, the demographics change. So quit telling me how the demographics are changing. They always change. The American dream hasn't changed. Okay? Not in one simple little bit. If you look at history, and if you look at simple statistics, the conservative wins every time. Ronald Reagan ran as a conservative. Okay? I mean, he won hands down. He turned us back into a prideful country again in his first term and governed mostly as a conservative. There were some things I didn't agree with on Ronald but mostly as a conservative, and he stuck to his word. Oh, I mean, he won going away in the second term. George Bush Sr. ran as the third term of Ronald Reagan and as a conservative. He just cleaned up, easy win. He governed from the middle, raised taxes, etc. Clinton killed him because he didn't keep his word. If you're gonna vote for the liberal, why not do it for the guy with a D behind his name? At least he's telling you the truth. So then just continue looking at our presidential politics from then on. Bob Dole ran against Clinton in his second term as a moderate, mostly as a liberal. Obviously, it was just killed. John McCain, or I'm sorry, George Bush Jr. ran as a conservative, barely won, then governed as a conservative in his first term. Right? One going away in the second term. In his second term, he had a Democratic Congress. He moved right back to the middle, did some very stupid things. You couldn't have got a Republican elected for $100 in the next term. Right? And what did we get? We got John McCain versus Obama. McCain ran from the middle. How'd it work for him? How'd it work? You know, and we got Obama. We got the super liberal. You look at Romney in the last election. Romney ran in the primary as a conservative. Right? Whether he was conservative or not, you know, I was going to say the jury's out, not really. But he ran as a conservative. As he kept sticking to his guns as a conservative, up to and including the first debate, all of a sudden he went ahead. And after the first debate, even the liberal media said they had to admit that Romney was ahead in the polls. His handlers went back to him, or whoever did it, and said, now you got to move to the middle to get these independent votes. He moved to the middle, boom, through the floor. Through the floor. They love it. So we have to quit letting the Democrats tell us
What to do.
They're getting the
how
message
we're going
out.
to win. You know?
They're getting their message out and we're not.
Oh, yes, well, they own the press, and they're going to get their message out
Box
more
stock,
than they are.
whatever.
The only thing that's going to save us is the reality stepping in. And the internet.
Yes, sir.
And the internet. Because on the internet, nobody controls what you say.
Look at
Nobody
Wiener.
controls the press.
Who wants to
The guy in
look?
San Diego.
You look at Wiener.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that the Democrats have these promises.
They run pervs. They run perverts, man.
Yeah. Right.
And we're the war on women.
Oh, absolutely.
As
Yeah.
long as, I think as long as we stick to conservatives, we can look at Skip Daly's race in the last election. He ran against Dave Espinosa, a really nice guy. Really good guy, worked hard, but Dave ran in the middle. Dave ran as a moderate. Hell, I gotta be honest with you, if I was in that district voting, I'd probably vote for the Democrat. No, I could never do that.
I know.
But you know what I'm saying? Because the Democrat at least
Tell them.
was telling the truth. He said, yeah, I'm liberal, I'm gonna take everything you own and give it to, you know, somebody who doesn't deserve it. Well, at least he told you the truth. When mining, when SDR 15 came through and SB 400 on mining came through, I was talking to some of the big people in mining, to Mike Brown over at Barrett Gold, and I said, well, you know, you gave the money to Debbie Smith and you gave the money to Roberson. And he goes, yeah, he says, and we'll continue to give money to Debbie Smith, because when she brings the knife, it's from the front. When Roberson brought the knife, it was right in the back, right? Because they didn't expect Republicans to try to get a new tax out of them.
Yeah.
Okay? They expect the Democrats to do it, and the Democrats control the House, so sure they're going to donate to them. That's just common business sense. But they didn't expect the Republicans to do that. So, okay. Let you guys get on with your meeting. Thank you very much.
Yes, the Story County Republican Party, thank you for coming up,
Oh,
appreciate it.
every time.
I do want to say one nice thing about Jim.
Oh.
Well, we had two education bills that I had a chance to go up and talk in Carson City. Jim is always willing, he's available, you can call him almost on a minute's notice, changes his calendar to let local people talk to him. So I really appreciate your efforts and what you did for Story County and Jim.
Oh, thank you. Now, I have a simple rule when it comes to people donating money. One of my opponents in the last session said, well, he's taking money from, you know, I have a simple rule when someone donates money to me. I will take your money. Not a problem, give it to me, and the more the merrier. But if you expect any more access to me, my office, than John Smith from Virginia City, you're not gonna get it. And as long as you understand that, I'll take your money. I only have one company, pull their money back, and that was Southern Nevada Water. Southern Nevada.
Yeah.
Well, I told them too, that if they tried to take the water out of the Menden Aquifer like they're talking about, that they were gonna see in the Seminole with a shotgun standing there. blowing the road. So, but, so they didn't like that much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, buddy, see you later. Thanks for having me, guys.
You bet.
Anytime. And all my cards and everything, my cell number's on there. That's a really neat thing about Nevada. I think we all give out our cell numbers. My cell number's on there, you know, if you have a problem, if you have a concern, call me. If I don't know the answer, and a lot of times I don't, I'll find it for you. Okay? Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Calendar check, give me a call.
What's that?
Next time you need your calendar check, give me a call.
I will, I will. And sometime before the morning of. Oh, and next time you need to know what time the meeting is, give me a call.
I'll do that. Very.